Winston. Welcome to another edition of Uncorked. Tonight, Uncorked is really unhinged. I have traded in my bottle of wine for Coke because I need all the energy I can get. Oh, Lord. I've got 2 books coming out in 2027, and both of them are due within a month or so of each other, which is basically now. So I've gone a little crazy. Yeah, just a little bit nuts. And so I just wanted to talk to you about just feeling good about your process. One of the projects that I'm working on is very lyrical, but I finished the first draft a few months ago, before Christmas. So I haven't thought about it a lot since then. Well, I have, but in an abstract way, not in a let's go to work kind of way. So now I don't even know where to begin. I'm starting, my editor sent me this long message of synopsis and everything, and she's great. I don't want you to think I'm bagging on my editor. She is absolutely great. But when you're a professional author, when you're working on things that are going to be published, you write your heart out for that first draft. You have such high hopes for it. And, every writer is like that. And then you send it in. And when they send you the revisions with like a 12-page letter full of notes, it sort of affirms every negative thought that you've let creep into your mind about what a fraud you are, how bad you are at being an author, all of those things. So it gets tough. I'm not even going to lie to you. It gets tough. But I'm not going to whine and bemoan my status right now. We'll get back to me later. I want to hear how you're doing. I want you guys to start reaching out. Send me messages. Ask me questions. As aspiring authors, what do you want to know? What can I tell you? What can I help you with? Next week, I'm going to talk about some books that I have read or am reading that are what I call winter reads. I love winter books. I love the landscape. I love when it feels desolate, when people are trapped out in storms. It could be my childhood in Michigan, growing up and seeing foreign life forms in snow shapes or in trees. But, that's what the imagination is for. So, but anyway, I love those kind of books. And so I've got several, and I'm going to talk about them and talk about how, as books, they have, a few of them have helped me to think about how I write. And again, these are all the books I'm talking about, I believe, are adult books, are, books for grown-ups. But just because it's a book for grown-up doesn't mean it can't help you with your edit or revision of a book for younger people. Because again, my motto is good writing is good writing. If you come across it, embrace it, and do your best to learn from it, because it is it's a treat. It's a gift. I think writers who spend time not just writing their stories, but working on their craft, I think they are some of the most amazing people in the world. And, like many of you, my goal is to be one of them. I've won some awards, as I've said, and I'm, like the little engine that could. I think I can, even when I'm faced with a rescission that makes me feel like, no, you can't. I know I have to keep on plugging, so I do. And I almost said I'm enjoying it, but that's just too far. Girl, I'm not enjoying the revision. It hurts. It's like physically painful, because you've written this whole story up and you think you have conquered some things, and then they come back to you, and like as I said before, that first paragraph or that first page just glowing. You are a star. You are amazing. You did this and you did that, and your chest puffs up. Yeah, I did that. I did that. And then you get down to the but we would like to see you do this, and we would like to see you do that. And can you move this and you move that? And what about the pacing? And what about the theme? And what about the overall arc? And then pretty soon you are lying fetal on the floor with the doggies licking your face, speaking of, and a sense of regret. Priya, honey, please, there's no one out there. I have my window cracked because my daughter likes to keep the hot house warm. And I am a woman of a certain age. I can't be having all that heat. I can't do it. I need it to be cool. So even in these Arctic times, I've had to plug in my fan. I've had to go to great lengths. You don't know what I go through trying to make this happen for you. I do it out of love. I love you, and I want to see you succeed. But there is a high personal cost to me. Yeah, I have to pay the price. One of the things I have to do is deal with growling puppies who wake up and have nightmares, and also deal with hot house warmth when the house legitimately should feel cool because it is 20 degrees outside. But that's a story for another day. What I wanted to just add, in last week's video, if you saw it, and I hope you did, and I hope you liked and subscribed, just like I hope you do the same for this video, I talked about villains. I talked about writing villains and what it was like to write villains, and some of the things you needed to keep in mind when you write villains, things like that. So I gave you some tips, and I told you some things. And this week I was, after that video was done, I thought about it a lot, and I thought, wow, I hope I'm not putting, as Granny used to say, putting the cart before the horse, which just means that, writing the first draft or working on the first draft of your novel, it's so special, whether it's the first time you've ever tried to write a first draft, or somebody who, like me, who has written literally dozens and dozens of first drafts, many of which never saw the light of day in terms of going to a publisher. But that is how you get it all out. That's how you get out what you're feeling and are able to separate what you want to say from what you couldn't help but say. A lot of times we come to writing with an idea of who we want to be, of who our identity is going to be as an author. I want to be a mystery writer. I'm going to be a romance writer. I'm going to write literary fiction. I'm going to write for grown-ups. I'm going to write for kids. And then you sit down with your work, with your novel, and it takes you in another direction. Those people who live in our minds, they really do have a mind of their own sometimes. And you can't really know what is going on in their minds until you put them on the page. And, I've had books where, a kid book where I was trying to build a relationship between two characters. I was trying to give her like little kid version of a meet cute. But when I put those two characters together, and I had worked on that boy character, I loved my main character. I thought, this is going to work. I could not make the two of them work together. They didn't like each other. Okay, call me weird, call me crazy. You made them up. How is it that they didn't like each other? I don't know. I'm not magic. I'm not made of answers. I'm glad that I had you do the exercise, but I kind of want you to take a step back and work some more in just getting out your story, getting out your idea, whether your first idea is about something that happened in your childhood, something that happened in college. If you've got strong memories of different points of your life that just come to you, don't worry if that's not what your book is supposed to be about. Write it down, write it all down. And then later you can go back and look at it and think, you might look at it and think, man, I was a pretty sick puppy. You might. Or you might look at it and say, wow, this might be something here. I think I've mentioned before on here, and I know I've mentioned it when I've done book events in person, that I've always been drawn to mysteries and Nancy Drew and novels like that. And I think that is largely because my mother and uncle and dad, those were the kind of shows they watched late at night when they were done with all the kid shows and the reruns of Gilligan's Island.
Trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship.
If you know, you know. So, so I really liked the concept of those shows as puzzles. But then later, when I was 12, I want to say, and in middle school, I had a really close friend of mine. Their family was friends with my family. We weren't like, besties or anything, but she was a tall, strong, big boned girl who grew up in the projects, and, she had a rough intro to life. And so she was a tough girl, and she was known as a fighter. And I was a puffball who was known as not a fighter. So I was like the dumping ground for every bully on the block. And she would stand up for me. Like, she punched one kid in the face. I mean, she didn't play, and you knew she didn't play. Leave her alone. Sometimes I wonder if my quest for justice and my addiction to true crime on television isn't a subtle, not so subtle way of me healing that part of myself, which never really got healed. It just got scabbed over. So that could be it. I'm not trying to take you guys into a trauma trip. If you've got memories like that of your own that you want to explore, feel free to. But if you've got memories that are funny and family oriented and about friendship, please pursue those. Write those memories down. Keep them written. That's all I have for now. So next week, we're going to get into some fun favorite winter reads. And then we're going to talk about first pages. Not even the first chapter, but first pages. First pages, again, they can be magical if you let them. All right, my babies. It's been so fun talking to you. Bye-bye.